Joe Williamson is our guest tonight. He is the brand new head football coach at Jonesville High School. Coach, how are you?
I'm doing good. Thanks for having me, Andy.
I think I faced you when you were at Litchfield one time.
Yes, sir.
It might have been your first year.
Yep.
And we had you had Eichler, who was incredibly fast.
No, I actually did. That was the year before me.
You didn't have Eichler.
I did not have Eichler. I wish I had Eichler.
Everybody wishes they had Eichler. And so you've coached at Litchfield, you've coached at Concord. Is this your third stop now here at Jonesville?
Yes, keep getting closer to home. So
now there are two audiences interested in hearing this interview. Obviously the Jonesville fans, but also your Charger family. Mm-hmm. And we'll be putting this online later. So a couple questions about your Hillsdale College experience before we get into the Jonesville stuff. Is that cool?
Absolutely.
Okay, Joe Williamson, the head coach at Jonesville High School. You played for Dave Dye, who is awesome. I'm a big fan of his. What's one thing maybe that you took from Coach Dye as you got to be a head coach later on when you went to Litchfield, when you went to Concord, now at Jonesville? What's something that you took from Coach Dye that you were able to implement into your own coaching?
The biggest thing that I've gotten from pretty much every coach I've been associated with, and I've been blessed for that, is just do everything with class and with a championship mentality. That's the one thing I've tried to pass on to my players is, being a math teacher probably doesn't help, but I'm a process guy. I'm more worried about the work that goes in as opposed to the end result, because I believe that work is what carries you over. You can win with superior talent, but let's say you go 7-3 and you should have been 10-0 because you had that talent, but you didn't put that work in. So I think that's the biggest thing with that Coach Dye really emphasis was doing everything in a first-class manner, whether it be going to class, going in public, helping an old lady cross the street or put bags in her car, just little things like that, doing things with that mentality of be your best at all times. And that's something that I've tried to pass on to my players over the years.
What was it like throwing passes to Ed House?
Oh, it's great. You just got to get it within about a 10-yard window. He had a Calvin Johnson-like wingspan. So, yeah, him and Adam Greenman, too. Adam Greenman was one of those deceptively fast guys.
Musalowitz?
Yep, Danny. Yep.
Your year in 2001, we're looking at the stats right now from Hillsdale College 2001. The starting quarterback was Billy Skelton, but you got in 7 games that year and threw for, as we look at the stats here, you threw for over 500 yards. You had 5 touchdown passes. So you made an impact during that 2001 season.
Well, I mean, I was very blessed. Billy was the starter, but I was fortunately enough to be named team captain by my teammates there, and I think that was just part of that thing. If they thought enough of me to be a captain on the team, that the coaching staff thought, try to get me in when they could, and that was kind of my job, was to be kind of a spark plug at times when things were a little stagnant, just to go in there and try to get the guys up and play. And it was just a blast to play with those guys.
Net 27 yards rushing that season.
That's it?
That's what it says.
Wow. I thought I had
They probably take your sack yardage away.
Yeah. Well,
It's you probably had way more than that.
Oh, yeah.
Before it was all said and done. Kevin Clyde was a tough dude.
Yes.
He was pretty tough. Yeah, inside running back. He could bounce off some hits and take it.
Right. Oh, he was. I mean, if I could go back, he's probably the best football player I've ever played with, against, practiced with. I mean, he was, especially that year, we kind of ran a wing offense. It was Coach Otterbein's year where he was actually the featured back. But in that wing offense, I mean, Kevin was our best blocker as well as our best runner. So it was one of those things where we gave backs a lot of the carries other than Kevin, because Kevin was so good blocking on that edge. But, I mean, he was just a guy that, if you had to go to war with somebody, Kevin Clive was just that guy.
Tim Mustafa is one of my favorite Chargers ever. Played on the defense most of the time, but he also returned some kicks for you guys. And if you ever get a chance to talk to Tim, he is a charismatic, interesting guy. And you look up and down that team. You only won 3 games in 2001, but you look up and down that roster, there's some pretty good guys on that team.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, that was great going against him every day in practice. Him versus Ed was always a pretty good jawing match. And, we had a pretty stout defense. Our offense wasn't very consistent. In my career at Hillsdale, I think we had 5 different offenses in 4 years. And
that's tough. And that's one thing I wanted to ask you about as we transition to Jonesville now. Coach Pelham was 2 tight ends, full house backfield, wing T. I know that in high school football, those schemes can change over time, but he was a wing T guy, full house, 3 backs, 2 tight ends, kept it really close. As you're looking at this Jonesville team, what kind of offense do you want to bring? Will you stay in that tight package, or will you open it up a little bit?
We're going to open it up a little bit. I'm big on being a multiple formation guy, and even talking with Coach Pelham before the season, I was going to help him out on JV, and we just kind of talked about some options. A lot of the size graduated. I mean, they had a big senior class, I mean, number-wise, but as well from a physical standpoint, where this, our upcoming senior class isn't necessarily as big, but they're quick, and and they're mean, and they're hard-nosed, so maybe getting them out in space a little bit more, and using our speed and quickness to our advantage more than just pounding it and put it in the phone booth and trying your luck there.
Kids love to play the multiple sets. I think they're having a lot of fun last year because they won a lot of games. That offense that Coach Pelham put on the field last year was a sight to behold. I mean, they put up a ton of yards. They scored a lot of points. But defensively, sometimes they had their problems. As you look at film from last year, obviously you have different players. What can you do to maybe improve the defense a little bit, which would probably be the difference in a couple of those games down the road?
Right. Well, it seemed when we going through talking with the other coaching staff from what I've seen, it's down to one bad quarter pretty much for our defense. I know Homer, I think, was the second or third quarter where they had a 21 or 28 point. They got that fluke off the helmet catch for a touchdown, and all of a sudden, a 7-7 game became 28-7, and so fighting that momentum battle, I think, and just offensively, the 3 and outs. I think those games, the 3 games they did lose, a lot of it was, they either got good drives or it was that 3 and out mentality. And so offensively, even if we're not scoring, it's moving that football, getting first downs, taking time off that clock, and keeping the other team's offense off the field. But our defense will definitely be, our strength, with the new offense coming in. There's only 2 guys back from last year's offense, and neither one of them are probably going to play the same position that they played last year. So our defense has the most experience coming back, and we're going to count on them to lead us, especially early on in the season.
We're talking Comet football with Joe Williamson, the new head coach. As you look at the season coming up, who are a couple of guys that you're going to be leaning on to be leaders of this Comet football team for 2014?
The guy that jumps out right now, especially to all of us, we've been talking about our summer star guy has been Robert Sowers, linebacker. He's not very big, but he is just relentless. Watching him on tape last year, he was a guy that just, you never had to worry about Robert playing hard. And it's been the same thing. Every station we're doing right now, every lifting circuit we're doing, he is full speed the whole time. I mean, he goes until that whistle stops. So he's a guy we're counting on from a leadership standpoint. Sterling Ladd is another guy that is not afraid to, again, work hard and be vocal around those kids that are, he feels that are slacking a little bit. John Rodriguez is a guy we're counting on. He had a big wrestling year this past winter, and we're counting on that success. His physical presence alone has been big for us. I mean, he's a strong kid. We're going to look to use in some unique ways this year. Derek Bearden's a guy that we feel could be a weapon for us that is going to be tough for teams to defend on the outside as well as from a defensive standpoint. And Jared Maines at quarterback, I feel very confident in him. I've been fortunate to coach some pretty good quarterbacks in my tenure as a high school coach, and Jared is, physically he's there. The one thing is, being able to get from that, handing the ball off, 95% of the time to being able to do some reads and pre-snap decisions and things like that. But I'm excited with Jared. His energy's been great. And Kyle Macy is a guy that I think could be one of the best players in the league. He's just one of those physically wiry, gifted kids that's stronger than he looks, and he's faster than what he seems, and he just, his footwork has been amazing in the backfield. So I'm really excited with this team coming up.
Joe Williamson is the new head coach at the Jonesville High School Comets, and they have their first game in a few weeks against the Hillsdale Hornets. I don't know how you feel about this, but I love it. I love the fact that Jonesville and Hillsdale are playing week 1. From an interest level in our county, that playoff game is one of the biggest games I can ever remember. The game that they played last year, and the crowd kind of spoke to that. Now you get to have them in the first game of the year, and I think it's really exciting. What do you think?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, my high school, we were in a 10-team league, so we played 9 regular seasons in Ohio, and then we had 1 non-league. And our non-league game was our biggest rival. It was the first game of the season, and to me, there's no better way to motivate your players in the off season than having a game like that to start the year off. That was something we had. And my sophomore and junior year in high school, we lost that game, and trust me, our coach had every sort of paraphernalia you could have in our lockers, in the weight room. I mean, it was one of those things. Everywhere you went, you knew what that score was that last year, and you were doing your very best to make sure you came out on top. So having that kind of a game, and I know the kind of program that Coach Lemron has put together over there, they right now are the premier team in the conference. Them and Reading, I think, from a consistency standpoint, and we want to put ourselves in that position where we're every single year we're not just making the playoffs, but we want to do some damage once we get there.